Loud. Welcome. This meeting is being recorded. Okay, Andy, you're up.
So just a brief update from the Aether deployment brigade. Just going down the list, Daniel pointed out a bug in the what was the latest rock chart. It wouldn't actually install because of an issue. So thanks to Daniel for pointing that out, and I fixed it, so it should be fine now. 2.131 should be fine. Kiwan Lee is asking me some questions about my proposal that somebody should build Aether in 2 boxes. Just to highlight the simplest case of having the edge and the core on separate Kubernetes clusters. And I think, the reason behind this inquiry is that, that scenario raises some connectivity challenges, and people are still a bit unclear about how to think about that and what are the different ways to resolve those challenges. So we may not need AAI 2B necessarily, but maybe we should look to see that we have a document that specifically addresses what you need to do there, how you need to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, we have that sort of deployment matrix, for Aether standalone in a single server or dual server, and I don't know that we should add, yet another, Aether in 2 box kind of thing. That feels like added complexity to me. And yes, connectivity is the thing, and actually, Amol was working on a script to kind of test connectivity. I don't know, that probably would help in this case. But I don't know what others think, but adding yet another configuration does not necessarily feel like the right way to go to me.
Yeah, I don't think I was proposing I did at one point put out there that maybe we should do this Aether in 2 boxes as like a simple deployment scenario based on Aether in a box. I'm not suggesting that anymore. I'm just reporting that people are still confused about this, and the sooner we can get a document that describes the issues here and like what to do about it, then the better.
Okay, good.
So moving on, so Push was having some trouble setting up the rock with the persistent volume, and the issue is just that the default permissions inside the persistent volume don't actually allow atomics to write into the volume. And this is documented in an old Google Doc, but I guess that wasn't actually made public for no reason. It's just an oversight when we made other documents public. And so maybe we can move that to the public folder so that people can access that. I think I gave him like what he needs to know to get him unblocked, but it would be nice to have that public. And then the final point is kind of a non-point. So I guess I was signed up last time to improve the rock Helm chart documentation, and that hasn't happened yet. I haven't had a chance to look at that. So that's all I had.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Next up is Daniel's presentation. Do you want to take over the screen share, Daniel?
Yeah, so maybe if you guys doesn't mind, my suggestion would be to move this to the end of the meeting. Is it possible? I believe it's gonna be better, right? Sounds good.
I'll leave the reminder there at the very end. So just for those joining us, this meeting did start at 10, not 10:10, and that's the way it's going to be moving forward. But I think calendar invites are lagging that, so we recognize several people have probably just joined. We already had a brief discussion about the private key exposure in ONF repositories. Next up would be Keel.
Hello. Yeah, so I have just a quick presentation if you want to look at it. It's basically just overview. I could tell you verbally, or we can do it visually, however you like.
Visual's fine. Let me, I'll stop share and then you can take over.
Let me go ahead and just make a presentation so that people can read it. Hello, my name is Kyle Freet. Again, I'm one of the engineers here from the InfraLab here at ARM. I'm doing most of the porting efforts, kind of working on it. So I was told to kind of come through a couple different slides, most of them just to kind of talk about the hardware that it's working on right now, what software it's working on, the current practices of how we're porting this, what the effort level of that is. And then from there, also talk a little bit about like next steps, what we're wanting to do, how to get on the roadmap, etc. So as of right now, for hardware-wise, Graviton 2 and 3 on AWS systems is working. Ampere off of physical Ampere machines and also off of Oracle Cloud is working. And then we had a success on the ONF side for M1. I'm only able to make successful porting of ARM64 on Ubuntu 18. 20, I was told it kind of should work out of the box, but as of right now, I'm still getting SSL failures. So I'm not sure if we should focus on that as a next steps or how we want to move forward on there. And then as for porting progress, so we have the initial orchestration working right now. So all the subsystems, the ROC is all running. I provided instructions a couple weeks ago, and Amol, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, was able to successfully build and run the port on M1. SD core right now is being ported, or I'm trying to start the porting effort right now. I'm working on Cassandra components right now. I'm just having some issues that are related to older builds and components that are just not initially made for ARM. And then again, any kind of complete instruction set on how to port, patches, whatever is needed for upstreaming can also be provided at any time. And that's it. So nothing too interesting.
So changes to something like Cassandra's, are you pushing those back upstream to the source so that
most of that has already been done. The things that I'm working on are from much older versions of Ubuntu. One of the changes that I saw, so I guess that's kind of two questions. So if I was able to get access to the official build instructions, maybe I'm doing this incorrectly. I'm just kind of trying to stumble my way through all this process of building. So the way I'm working right now is there's a component that was built on Ubuntu 16 that uses a Cassandra driver that is not officially, was not made for ARM. So I'm building each one of those components myself. We have Cassandra expertise on our side here at ARM, so it has not been too bad. But if there's an official guide of how you build these things, what is the order, what are the components, that probably would make the porting process much quicker, and I probably wouldn't be doing things that I shouldn't be doing. There's that, yeah. But anything that we do make modifications for, yeah, we'll definitely push those up if they're of use to people.
Okay, so it sounds like a lot of this is just we used old versions are still pulled in places.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
that is what I'm seeing so far. Yes.
I wanted to ask Kyle, in the case of the ROC components, did you run the Docker build again from scratch, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, I did modifications to those, and then from there just did the running of the building components, and then basically injected those into a private Docker repository, and then the Helm chart then pulled from my local. So that's how I did it.
Yeah. And what kind of problems did you come across, just as a matter of interest?
Most of them were pretty straightforward. Most of it was very simple. Like there's already pre-built versions of this that were working that I could just modify slightly. The only one that I remember having some issues that I had to build with was the ONOS, I think is how you say it.
Yeah.
There's an official build plan. So we had to rebuild some of those components, but it wasn't of anything too hard. I can provide the entire list of all the changes that I provided, which may give you a little bit more of an understanding. But in general, it was mostly just making sure I built things. There might be, there were some orchestration problems initially. So trying to get RKE2 working on ARM has been quite a bit of a challenge. So moving back to Kube Spray and some of the initial building components were probably the major hurdles.
And things like atomics, you built that.
Yeah, we had to
again.
rebuild some of those, but they were
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. Didn't have too many problems.
Great. Okay. Okay.
SD
Thank you.
core has definitely been a little bit harder, but I mean, I haven't hit anything that I haven't been able to push over yet.
Good to know. Thanks.
But if anyone on ONF wants to help, I always accept help.
So Kyle, I have a question. So you asked regarding the Jenkins access. So so there are two things I want to clarify. So do you need access only to view the jobs, or you want to also run some of the jobs?
I think in the future, once we have this completely ported and it's, aligns to both ARM and ONF, then yeah, upstreaming would definitely be the next steps for
Okay.
this. But in general, the reason why I was wanting access just to CNC or CI/CD was basically to understand how you're building these things. What's the underlying components? Like, what is the order of operations? Right now, I'm just kind of like, I'm pulling them all down and hopefully I build the right one first. And then, lots of times these components all interact with each other in different ways. So like one of them will be waiting for another service to start. And I'm like, well, hopefully I find that one service that needs to start first. And then, you start the whole process all over again to build it. It was definitely dependency heavy on ORAN SC when I worked on that. So I kind of assumed probably incorrectly that maybe it's similar, but right now it's just mostly to understand how things are built.
Okay, no problem. So I'll make sure that you will get the read access of Jenkins server, and particular those jobs which are related to the deployment.
Okay, yeah, and then I also had a discussion early this morning with our ARM side about some of the performance and optimizations. And once we are able to get a successful, build running, we have expertise on our side to be able to inject, custom libraries or modified libraries that kind of help push the ARM side of this in performance. So getting access to Jenkins and being able to write tests and be able to produce those would definitely help on our side as well.
Okay, so with case of Jenkins, we need infrastructure to run.
Okay, where is it ran right now?
So currently we have in-house as well as AWS cloud services where the jobs are running.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what
So
is the...
I guess it comes down to what would you like? So I can get you servers. Those are usually about 4 to 6 weeks out for delivery. I do need specifications as to what you need for hardware. So like if you plan to do a lot of disk writing or you need more memory, I just need those kind of understanding aspects of that. I don't think getting you those systems would be very hard, but there is some lead time, due to all the supply chain problems. The other aspect, which is kind of an easy one, is we can use AWS, Graviton 2 and 3 both run. So if you have access to that infrastructure or you need some components, whatever you like, we can also help on that side too.
Okay, that's great. So I'll let you know details about that later on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we've sent hardware to many different companies. I mean, we sent it to Microsoft when we were doing Sonic work, and they were able to get it up and running pretty quickly. You just need to give me details of like, what OS is, what hardware requirements, and it's usually pretty straightforward. We can have it delivered directly to you and pretty easy setup.
Okay. Thank you very much for the explanation.
So, but just to get it up and running fast, I think probably the easiest is to get it up in AWS. And but is there, can ARM host an account for us? Because we don't want to, we're not prepared to, ONF to bear the ongoing recurring cost.
Sure. I don't see a reason that being a problem. I'll go to my go-to-marketing strategy person. They're pretty much the one that can fulfill these kind of requests, but I don't see a reason why we wouldn't be able to do that. Do you know what you're wanting to do right now? Is it just to show the initial orchestration? Do you want to wait till we have everything up and ported? Like when and where would you think you'd like this?
I think this is something that would work out collaboratively with you. I think it probably matters most when it's all up and ported, but it may be there's some incremental work on the way to get there. So, we'd look to you to some degree to help guide.
Okay.
But I think,
yeah, no, I mean, my real goal at ARM here is to try to get something working with ONF to try to do kind of an apple to apple comparison on x86 to ARM, find the full stack structure, run it, with an EU on that. So any type of MVP, POC, whatever you want to do at this point, I'm all ears and willing to provide support to do so. Yeah, I mean, this is primarily the reason why we want this meeting here, was to try to figure out how we can get on the roadmap, how to, get ONF part of this. I know you have kind of, in the initial meeting we had, you talked about some of the partners that you have that maybe would be a good fit for us, and we're ready whenever you are.
Okay. No, good. And so, but it does seem like, I guess I was under the impression that SD core was already ported. So, you don't really have, we have just part of it up right now. So that's definitely the number one first thing to get done.
Okay.
And
Yeah, so the entire Aether in a box is what you're asking for it to be running first.
yeah, that's right.
Okay. So then once we were able to complete that, what would be, like, when would we be able to talk to any type of collaboration efforts?
So I'm happy to talk anytime, and we can take it offline, and we should really talk about different forms of collaboration and whatnot. So so just keep me up to date on kind of how the progress is going, and let's schedule a side meeting to go.
Is
deeper.
anybody in ONF going to be at MWC at Las Vegas this year, or no?
I'm
That
gonna
would be good.
Yeah, I'll be there with somebody else. So we could do. Actually, we're scheduled to talk with ARM already, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that solves that problem. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thanks for the work as well, and good progress.
Yeah, thank you. Let me make sure I'm back off mute. Good, I am. So next up was a 5G SIM problem update. Who has that? AJ?
I have not added, but I'm surprised, like, who is looking for update, and I don't know, like, I mean, we are not working on currently any SIM card specific things, but we do have the Sercom Gnode be available with me now to try out the SIM cards they have provided, but I'm just at very early stage to even try the SIM cards and get the phone connected. Yeah.
Sure.
But the scope is to make sure that Gnode B works with the AIB and get one of the phone connected to it. So still not really, the SIM card is not the scope.
All right. Any other questions on that?
Scott, I was just going to say the scaling issue for Rock with the SIM cards that Amis was having. Did you cover that on another point?
What problem? This was with gRPC message size?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't followed that discussion that closely.
Yeah, I thought this might have been related because it was the SIM cards they were having a problem with. But,
oh, adding many SIM cards, and they were going over the 4 GB limit. So we had proposed places to change that in Go. Were we successful with that, or?
No, it has to be done in Atomics. So the hierarchy is Jordan agreed to make those changes in Atomics, but he only wants to do it on the latest version of Atomics. And the latest version of Atomics requires a Jenkins build system with Go 1.19. And basically the ONF infrastructure for building, there needs to be a Jenkins builder for Go 1.19. So Zach said he would hopefully get around to it this week. It's something we're only, I think 1.16 is the maximum at the moment, and all ONF projects are stuck there until that's done. So I'm just bringing it up for the ONF guys, that if you do hear about it from Zach, it is a high priority issue.
And is there anyone at ONF who could offload? I mean, are people familiar enough with the Jenkins system that this could be done at ONF and offload Zach, or is he critical for this?
I think he's critical because he said the documentation isn't complete. There are a set of Ansible scripts for building that image, and he's going to try to pull them together. So I guess you know, you don't want it to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
when somebody knows already how to do it.
Is incomplete.
I will collaborate with him. This is Amal. I will collaborate with him regarding this work.
That is
So
great, Amal. Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be appreciated.
Okay, great. Okay, next up, QA2 test setup bed. Amal.
Well, you might be on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So so yesterday me and Jeremy talked about it regarding this test setup, and we tried to run few commands, but the license has been expired. So I'm in a contact with the respective person. So yeah, today I will send email regarding the license update, and he is going to update the license. Regarding the installation, Leaf2 node is offline. I need little bit more investigation why it is offline. So that's it for now. Remaining regarding the deployment, yesterday we tried the deployment was successful. So I don't think that there will be any problem to set up the bed within this month.
And just to make sure we're all in sync and make sure I understand too. So this is at the colo that the whole Ether, both CI/CD and QA setup just has never been brought up in solid since April or so. Is that right? And so this is kind of getting that all back up and running.
Yes, Colo.
Got it. And how's that connected to the item above that Zach is working on? Is it on that same infra or somewhere else? What Zach is doing?
No, I don't have any knowledge about that.
So I guess you're going to sync with Zach, see if you can figure out and triangulate.
Yes.
Anybody else know?
No, I don't know where these Jenkins are running at.
So we have jenkins.aetherproject.org where all the Aether jobs are running.
And that could be in the cloud. Is that GCP? I guess maybe that's the question Zach would need to answer.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the two-factor authentication.
Yes, last week there was some discussion and Zach activated two-factor authentication. That's why some of the users are removed automatically by the GitHub because they don't have two-factor authentication. So please send me the user name. I will add you to the respected organization. Please let me know also organization, because there are many organizations that you can be a part of. So that is one thing I want to mention about. Another thing is that because of two-factor authentication activation, some of the bots which are like dummy users which we have created to access the repository for the Jenkins, they were also kicked out from the organization. So I have recovered some of them, which I came to know, and now the jobs are successful with that respect. But some of them I don't know about. So if anyone knows about any bot that I haven't recovered, please let me know. Another thing I want to bring it is that GitHub Actions. So some of the repository have GitHub Actions and it is running on GitHub token. So that token has a private, has a read-only access. So that's why some of the job pull requests are not getting completed. So those whoever made that setting, I think they need to verify and change the setting so that the jobs will be successful. Pull request.
I think that's probably Well, I think Adib created some GitHub actions. I can ping him and put him in touch with you, Amal.
But this is for many more repositories, right, Amal? Not just one.
Yeah, not just one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there are many
I
repositories.
thought,
Sure. I mean,
are
there are.
there?
Mhm.
Okay, because I thought they were all using Jenkins.
No, at
Um,
least I did see that UPF is one of the thing which was stuck, probably in
Oh,
GitHub action. Is it Amol same because of same reason? What have you explained?
Yes, some of the means I can send you the details, how many organizations and how many repositories are having GitHub actions and why they are not accessible. So yeah, I can send a list.
No, I mean,
to
you'll send to whom? So it's
whom.
something like
Yeah.
when we, yeah, I mean, it's difficult, right? Like when some pull request is stuck, somebody is going to report it, and then we have to find out the solution. I mean,
Yes,
going through like hundreds of repository also is like difficult. But yeah, I mean, proactively we can do that, but then we have to find the individual owner for all those tasks.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, goes way beyond Ether. I mean, I think that Stratum, for instance, uses a lot of GitHub actions.
Maybe, yeah.
yes. So it's not related with Ether, but one of the part means even in case of repositories.
So what's our resolution? Who owns sort of the root issue on fixing all of this?
So for users, please send me the email about some of the bots that haven't recovered. Means, for example, if you commit something and Jenkins job are not kicking off, then please let me know. I will try to recover those. And if there is GitHub actions failed, then I means we can do it, but we haven't set that up, that workflow. So we are a little bit lack in the knowledge that what will happen if we will give right access to something which should not be given to. So that's why I am little bit hesitate to take action on GitHub actions.
right. So it sounds like the repo owner or the person doing the commit should be aware that there could be problems with GitHub actions, and they should contact you.
Correct.
So I mean, how would you broadcast that to users? I think we could probably go on Microsoft Teams inside Intel and let people know that if they have GitHub actions in ONF repos, they may run into trouble and need to do something about it. Is that enough, Scott, do you think?
I think so, but it's, also the ONF community that needs to know as well. I mean, we can talk about it. Inside Intel, we're pretty good at discussing amongst ourselves when something breaks and
well,
figuring it out.
Then maybe you need to make an announcement on Slack or something like this to the ONF or for the ONS dev or one of those forums, letting people know. That might be a better way to do it, be a wider net.
Yeah, and you want to take care of that announcement, Amal?
Sure.
Okay. Sounds good. Are we ready to go on to Daniel's presentation?
One of the thing, like, was it unplanned because it caused a lot of disruption in last 1 week?
Two-factor authentication?
Yeah. There was no
Yes.
email notification or heads up, and
Yeah.
we could have done this in a planned way.
Yes, it
Avoid,
was.
because now we are facing problems, and then people are learning various difficulties in fixing these problems.
Yes, it was unplanned, unfortunately, but it gives two things. first of all, those who are who are inactive, so there will not be any problem for that. And the second of all is that some of the access is like the certificates, personal access tokens are, most of the tokens are not going to expire. So we need to change that strategy. That we infrastructure team came to know that we need to change that strategy, that we have to expire that certificate, personal access token. So we are in the process of making sure that the process should manage that, because the security is the most important point that we have to take care of. So yeah, so even though it is unplanned, but it gave us more insight about the system.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, for the remainder of the call, Daniel. Let me stop my share and hand off to you. We cannot hear you. We saw your screen and you.
Oh, okay.
Now I
sorry.
hear.
Yeah, I was on mute. Sorry. Well, it's gonna be really fast. Just a brief presentation of what we have done it. Basically, we have set up a Aether with a standalone scenario with SD core. Everything, the master and worker, it was the same server. We have set up an iPerf server outside of it. We have a BiCells Flex Run, which is an open run Gnode B, and we use it a Motorola 5G and 4G SIM card. We got this connection, and we have stressed the throughput of this scenario, and we got some results. So this is just showing the Gnode B connected, and we got it the radio going on with the connection. And then I'm just showing here what was our specifications. We got the standalone server with an x86 architecture, of course, with a CPU, an Intel Xeon Silver with 8 cores, 32 gigabytes of memory, and a network card of Broadcom, which supports up to 10 gigabits per second. BiCells, it's a similar setup with a different RAM, a different CPU, but it's similar. So, and the Motorola 5G, and we have tested with Quectel 2, which was another device that we tested, and we got some good results too. And talking about results,
what's
yeah.
that ORAN in the bracket? I mean, is it like ORAN compliant?
Yeah, it's sort of compliant. Are you asking which version?
Yeah, I mean, when you say ORAN, that means it's supporting those E1 and F1, all those interfaces.
Yeah, not all of them. We got the split of CU and DU. I know it's around compliant, but not full with the latest one with all the interfaces.
Okay, thank you.
I cannot say right now what was the version of it and what exactly it has. I know that we do have like the CU and DU split, but I do not know the details of which interfaces they are compliant, to be honest.
This Motorola 5G phone, can you give precise model? So if you want to.
Sorry?
this Motorola 5G, can you tell the model as well?
Yeah, it was for I forgot to put it on the presentation, but basically it was the Motorola Moto 5G. I can take the number, the model number
Yeah.
later, and I can tell you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then on the buy
Is it
cells,
okay?
on the buy cells, you mentioned the CUD, but what about, so does it have a separate RU as well? Is it 3 boxes?
Sorry?
So what about the RU for, the actual radio, the transmit receive for buy cell?
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not too much into it, and I am remote, so I have never seen it.
I can
But
help you.
yeah, maybe Nadia can
Yeah,
help me.
yes, the CU and DU, they're running our own servers, and we have an RU that is a hardware that is completely separate from the servers, so we can move it. We have 2 of them at the lab, and then we can position them in different parts of the lab for the experiments.
Okay, yeah, terrific.
We have 2 RUs.
We'd very much like to get sort of the hardware BOM for that setup. It would be really useful for us to know if you could share or add that to this slide deck.
Okay, we
Okay.
can check the versions and all the information later.
Yeah, thank you.
And just to give you like a teaser of what we got, because it's just the beginning, of course, but this is our results. So we have tested with OIE, with an USRP. We got an uplink of 30 megabits per second. We know it's not a lot, of course. But at Microsoft, we got a bit better. We got a downlink of up to 80 megabits per second. And then bicells, which was our main scenario, the one that we were trying to stress as much as we can. And we took more time on it. We were able to achieve up to 999 megabits per second and 138 megabits per second. And all of these, just to highlight, we are not using the PDK yet, which is one of our next tasks. We are trying to get on it. And this leads me to the next part, which is more like some questions that we were not able to see on website yet. I know that you guys have already this, but maybe not public yet. So one of them is regarding the PDK. I got some suggestions from Ajay, but it would be nice to have like a public version. Maybe when we test, we can have like a more like a document about it or something like it. And how to run multiple UPF, it's something nice. I don't think we do have something public right now. How to install Aether Cloud, it's not quite clear to me. It's just the same idea of the Aether standalone, and we just need to set up in a cloud environment and this should work. Or is there any change about it? The fragmentation issue, it's something that we are still checking what's going on. I'm not quite sure if this is regarding Ether specific or maybe the server. I'm getting some insights that maybe it can be the server side too. So I'm trying to work in another environment to check this one. And last but not least, if I provision a subscriber via API with proxy enabled, my understanding is that we should be able to see on Ether GUI the configuration, the provision of it. Until now, we have done this, we have enabled it, but we were not able to see it. I'm not quite sure. But this is just some of the questions that just to let you guys know that we do have like in a short time. And that's it.
Sure, just a confirmation on the last point there. Which API are you using to provision your subscriber?
Using the SD Core API.
Oh, using the SD Core API. Yeah. I mean, usually with the ROC, if you want to see it on the GUI, you have to go in via the ROC API, at the top, and then the ROC controls the core. If you went in and changed some stuff at the core itself, that would not be reflected up to the ROC.
Okay, but this is not the idea of the proxy, because my understanding from the image, my understanding was that the proxy was gonna send to both Rock and SD core.
Oh, you mean the subscriber proxy?
Yeah,
Yeah. So you're using like the SIM app API.
yeah.
Do you remember, AJ? Did we have that working when we left?
I think so, but I think, yeah, we can check like how far Daniel has tested and how he's testing and how he's deploying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
it is a subscriber proxy, then we can just look at it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't
theoretically,
remember.
okay.
I was going to say, I don't remember if we had the subscriber proxy. Well, you say you did enable it, so yeah, it should be doing its thing then.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
So
might be a Docker container you could look at, or Kubernetes pod. You could look at the output and see if it ran into errors.
So
Yeah,
what would be
got
the
it.
advantage of coming into SD core rather than using Rock for this?
So
Sorry?
I think it's always been like a two-stage process. I mean, one of them is you have to provision in SimApp that I mean, AJ could give more detail, but you provision in SimApp, then you go into the Rock and you associate the devices with their slices and configure them.
And maybe a question about it. So is there a reason to make the user enable the proxy, the subscriber proxy? Why it's not enabled by default?
So if I could chime in, I've been responsible for like the Rock deployments in our production Pronto environment and so on. I never enabled that subscriber proxy in any of our deployments because I couldn't get it to work. I vaguely recall there was some issues with it that but I don't recall now what they were. So that's why it's not enabled by default. I don't know if it actually works.
It sounds like a good reason. Okay.
So how would you recommend? So how would you recommend they do this function, Andy, if the proxy's not working?
Like Scott said, they'll just have to enter the information twice, like through the SimApp API and also the Rock API.
Manually. Okay, got it.
Not
Got it.
manually. I think if subscriber proxy works, then you will be able to call the API only once, and only calling it only once is good enough. But if proxy doesn't work, then you have to add the subscriber in the Rock through Rock API and add the subscriber in the SD core through CMAP API. So, but goal is that to make that subscriber proxy work so that you don't need to add the IMSIs multiple places. And,
Yeah.
and that's the reason, because if you have 100 subscribers, you don't want to do the task 2 times, right? If it is a few, then it's okay. But if it is like hundreds, then it doesn't look good.
Yeah, so first step should be to figure out, first of all, does it work? And if it doesn't work, what's wrong with it? Andy and I have just been disconnected from it from so long. I don't think we remember where it was at, and it may have just been that it was working, but we just didn't have confidence to switch our deployment model over to it. So someone needs to try it out and see what the problem is, and then someone needs to fix the problem.
Got it. Got it.
So how about some of these other things? I mean, the first bullet there, I thought that the best UPF used DPDK and was public. Is that not the case?
So I think he's talking about the how to enable DPDK and SRIOV and how to deploy it. So I guess we had shared one of the doc which Yunsun had written. I don't know if that is shared with you or we just shared some of the instruction. So that document we can definitely share it with you. We actually, the goal is that get the document content and put it in the Aether docs so that we don't have to share this separate Google Doc, right? So
yeah, I saw regarding the BESA, I saw that when we run a SD core, which I believe without the PDK, the CPU it goes like all straight to 100%, but I don't think the PDK is enabled by default.
by
right?
default, if you are just using the Aether in a box with hardware G-Node B, then it's disabled.
Yeah. I mean the standalone.
Yeah, it's disabled by default. But yeah, I mean you need to do few things to enable it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
all the,
Diamond, so it's not about the support in the UPF code is open source, but it's about the installing and how to install it, right? So
yeah.
it's
I know
always
it's
a
not so.
trouble to enable DPDK and SRIOV with UPF. So there are a
Yeah.
lot of steps to be done. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, yeah, that's it.
And then maybe what about the question about multiple UPFs on a same host, same server?
I think you should be able to do that as long as if you are able to so there are two things. If you want to do it with DPDK or without DPDK, in both the cases, as long as you have enough resources, you can do that. But it may not be the automated thing, whatever a regular AIB does, right? You may have to do few things manually there because
But
default Ether in a box is only for one UPF.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but just to be sure, when you mean multiple UPFs, you mean at the same host, or we must use different hosts?
Okay, so
you can use the same host. And normally we deploy the UPF hem chart multiple copies in a different namespace. In that way, you can deploy multiple UPFs. It doesn't matter the underlying host. It can be run on the same host.
Got it. We just need to change the access and core network interfaces over the
Right.
UPF.
Some of the static IP addresses they has to be unique.
Got it. And Ether Cloud, we should just understand it's going to be the same. It's the same deployment, but just over the cloud, or is there any different, let's say, steps to install it?
I can say it's almost the same, except that are you thinking to deploy UPF as well in the cloud, or just SD core in the cloud and UPF at the edge?
Of course, we can always start with the easiest one.
Okay, so if you want to deploy everything in the cloud, I think the procedure is almost same. Even the Ether in a box script would work in a cloud VM. But if you start to distribute the user plane to the edge, then you'll need to set up a VPN between central and edge, and then expose.
Yeah, got it. To make them L2 to be accessible, or
right.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And the fragmentation issue, I believe the ball is kind of on me, or maybe Amar. We are working together.
Have you checked the UPF configuration? It has a IP the fragmentation related config. I think the default value is something 15 something, I believe.
Yeah, I cannot recall like a flag with these. What exactly would be on it?
If you go to the UPF repository, there is a configuration UPF.json file with the full configuration. Not this one, it's the hem chart, the original source code.
Where should I find it? To be honest,
I will provide you the link and
sure.
Okay.
It's yeah. So you may want to try to play around with that configuration.
Yeah, I think Badri has provided in the chat. Maybe Daniel, you can look at it here.
Oh, okay, sounds good. This would be something like the full configuration of the UPF instead, right?
Right.
Got it. I'm gonna take a look on it. Well, right on time, 1 minute before it. Sorry, guys, it took a bit more than I expected.
No, that is fine, because I think we're at the end of the agenda. So, does anyone else have any opens for this meeting before we adjourn? Okay, then, as a reminder, the next meeting will be at 10 a.m., not 10:10. So make sure to, if your calendars aren't automatically updated, figure out how to update them yourself. And I'll see everybody next time. Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentations. It was great. Bye all.
Hey guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
all.
Thank you. Thank you.